Buenos dias, amigos. Let's talk about how the Neolithic Revolution gave birth to civilizations. Before civilization began as we know it, basically people were a bunch of nomadic hunter-gatherers and spent all of their time looking for food so they didn't die. After the last ice age ended and the Earth's temperature began to rise, people were able to begin farming crops and raising livestock. And this was a really cool deal because it gave people a stable food source and they were able to stay in one place. More importantly, it allowed them more time to not look for food or free time. All of this free time brought about civilizations that developed writing, religion, government, technology, urbanization, and specialized workers. This is all really cool, but it also led to lots of conflict, development of class structures, and the demeaning of women. Let's take a look at 5 of these early civilizations and figure out exactly why you should care about them. First up, the Indus Valley Civilization, which lasted roughly from 3300 BC to 1300 BC. It was located primarily in present-day Pakistan and spread out into western India and parts of Afghanistan. It benefited from the reliable flooding of rivers twice a year. This was a peaceful society that developed a written language, although it's never been translated. They also had a government that created planned cities. The large cities of Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa had sewer systems better than that of medieval Europe. It is a mystery why the civilization ended, but it's theorized that they were conquered because no weapons have ever been found in the ruins. Next up, let's take a gander at Mesopotamia. Mesopotamia, located in the Fertile Crescent, lies in present-day Iraq. The Tigris and Euphrates rivers provided the fertile soil for this civilization to flourish. Mesopotamia began around 3100 BC and consisted of numerous empires, including the Sumerians and Babylonians. They had a polytheistic religion, which means they worshipped multiple gods. Also, they had a written language called cuneiform. Their governments were primarily monarchies, or ruled by a king. The Babylonians are known for Hammurabi's Code. This is among the oldest known written set of laws and was important because it unified the empire, although it showed favoritism towards the ruling class. Also, historians uncovered the Epic of Gilgamesh, a Sumerian poem that is one of the oldest known works of literature. The Mesopotamians also built ziggurats, which were large raised platforms used for religious and government purposes. Also along the western edge of Mesopotamia lived the Hebrews. Unlike the other civilizations during this era, the Hebrews were monotheistic, or believed in only one God. They developed their own language and created their own set of laws called the 10 Commandments. They were led by important figures such as Abraham and Moses, and their history is written down in the Old Testament. Now let's talk about the civilization you probably are most familiar with, Egypt. Ancient Egyptian life was centered around the Nile River. The Nile flooded regularly, which led to the development of their calendar, and it was also easily navigated, which helped with trade. This supported a very influential civilization from around 2600 to 300 BCE. Egypt was ruled by a pharaoh who was sort of a combination between a king and a god. This is called a theocracy. Early on, the Egyptians built the pyramids as burial tombs for the pharaohs and other important citizens. The reason we know so much about them is because they developed hieroglyphics, or their written language. They used this to write down their history in stone and on papyrus, an early form of paper. Interestingly enough, ancient Egyptian culture has made its way to Frisco. Besides pyramids and a sphinx, they also built obelisks, examples of which you can find near the mall here in Frisco. Alrighty then, let's finish up with a little teaser on some other ancient civilizations that we'll go into more depth with in other units. During this time, a civilization was also forming in China along the Huanghe, or Yellow River. Generally, they developed slower than the other civilizations because of their isolation. They had no formal religion like the others, but tended to be polytheistic until Confucianism took over later on. Also, in present-day Mexico, the Chavan and